Hello and welcome. It is my pleasure today to introduce a young lady who was born and raised in New England, Kinjal Shah. Kinjal Shah is an early stage investor at Blockchain Capital, where she works with founders building the future of crypto. And after hours, she's also an associate member of Broadway Angels, a group of very unique set of women investors. There is other interests that she has, which also includes art, writing, and she spends a lot of time informing others about the space of investing. It is such a pleasure to meet you, Kinjal. Welcome to Lokvani.
Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic. And you are you were born and raised in New England. You went actually to Tufts University. And so could you tell us a little bit about what the journey has been from graduating from Tufts University to becoming one of the first wave, or at least first group of women investors who is now a partner at a very important investment firm?
Yeah, definitely. So, I think growing up, I had a lot of different interests, but most of them revolved around math and history and economics. And so when I went to Tufts University for my undergrad, I decided to study quantitative economics. Basically, economics with more of a math and statistical sort of lens. And so from there, I made my way into financial services, was working at Fidelity Investments, and that's when I actually came across Bitcoin. I was put on a project there to better understand the technology and think about how the company could apply it. And what I really loved about the space is that it immediately felt very interdisciplinary, and like we were going to change not just financial infrastructure, but access to financial markets. And that's really something that felt important to me, and I really resonated with in terms of my career goals and sort of what I want to do. And so since, once I got put on that project, I decided to move into the space full time. And that's when I got my role at Blockchain Capital. And at the process of that, I moved to San Francisco as well.
Fantastic, fantastic. Actually, I'm going to stop right there and ask you, for our audience, could you tell us a little bit of what this magical blockchain is all about?
Yeah, definitely. So, I think blockchains have become this very, somewhat of a hypey word where there's a lot of different definitions floating around. But at the end of the day, really what it is it's a database. So if you think about a database, usually, imagine cells in an Excel sheet, right? That holds data. And then really what a blockchain does is that it distributes this. So rather than having all of that data sitting on one computer, it sits in a whole network of computers. And by having a network of computers, this allows for certain properties like decentralization, right? So not one entity holds the control over that information. So the security is different. It also provides guarantees when it comes to the data not being immutable, which means that once the data is on a blockchain, it cannot be changed. So this is immutability. So there's lots of different properties that are associated with different blockchains. But at its core, that is a blockchain. And just to maybe also use some other more common nomenclature, Bitcoin is a type of blockchain, right? It is a blockchain, but there are many different, there are hundreds.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I would say that it seems like it's really innovation in the financial space that has come about because of Bitcoin. And if I look at your own investments that you are doing in the venture space, I think what I read was there's token-based investments and other things. So you're really changing the way investment is done. Am I right about that? Or could you explain that to us a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So, I think that the premise of token-based investing is rather than having a traditional ownership model where it's equity based, right? So if you want to invest in a company today, you would get equity. Rather than doing that, there's this model now where you get a token, and the token represents maybe some form of utility within that network, but also ownership. So it's almost like, to simplify this even further, it's almost like having your users become owners, or your owners become users. And this is a really powerful concept. So at Blockchain Capital, we invest in both traditional companies that are building infrastructure in the blockchain world, but we also invest in tokens. And these tokens really allow us to become participants and users of these products as well.
Wow. So very, very different way of thinking about investing itself. That's really interesting. Now you are a partner at this firm. You're a woman. Could you tell us that experience? I mean, I don't see too many women up there being partners at investment firms. So, what unique perspectives do you bring to the table, and what have been your greatest success at the company?
Yeah, I think being a woman in any industry that's very male dominated comes with its challenges. I felt very fortunate that the industry has been very welcoming, and I have, never really felt as if I've been hurt for being a woman in any way. That being said, I do see a lot of what I call this confidence gap, where there are a lot of women that would like to learn about the industry, but they find it maybe to be a little bit, complex or confusing, and therefore it's unapproachable. And so, I think with investing, with any sort of sector, it really just requires understanding the dynamics of the market, and I think blockchain is the same way. And so a lot of my time and energy outside of my main role at Blockchain Capital is actually mentoring women, hosting open office hours, and then also investing in them. So I co-founded this DAO called Komorebi, and I can explain a little bit more of what a DAO is. But we invest into female founders alone, female and non-binary founders.
Fantastic, fantastic. That's really wonderful to hear that you're very comfortable being an investor, and it's nice that actually you've been welcomed. And what you're saying, it's the women need to have the confidence that they can do it, and they will be able to be very successful. Though what I have heard a little bit is that the investment in women-owned companies is still a little bit not at the same rate as male-owned companies, and I don't know if that is true. And sometimes I've also heard that women themselves, who are investors, are a little bit, I think, put more due diligence into everything, and there's not as much of women investing in women companies as well. Do you have any comments on both of these?
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at where venture capital dollars are going, it's estimated 2 to 3% are going to women. And that's it, right? 98% are going to men. So that is a huge discrepancy. And that's really why I focused a lot of my energy on writing checks to women, because I really do think that change comes when you actually start moving your money to, where you think is important. So definitely think that's a bigger challenge, not just for blockchain, but for the entire venture industry. And there are a lot of organizations that are really working on supporting this as being a really important focus. In terms of sort of the due diligence process, or maybe fewer sort of women investors investing into women, I think ultimately what it comes down to is you have to be looking and sort of generating deals and companies from a variety of sources. If you rely upon age-old networks, you're going to get the same deal flow. And so I think what I've really found is that putting an emphasis on finding more women that are interested in becoming entrepreneurs, helping them, sort of mentoring them and nurturing them into starting their own companies, or just tapping into networks that are maybe a little bit different than yours, is really a powerful way to sort of change what types of companies get funded. And so that's really what I would push folks to do, and really what I suggest to, a lot of, I already see this from a lot of female investors in the space. So I think that's a really unique perspective to bring.
Fantastic. And you mentioned DAOs, and you said you use that as a vehicle as well. So I've heard mixed things about them. So could you tell our audience what DAO is all about, and your opinion and how you are involved in them?
Yeah, definitely. So a DAO basically stands for a decentralized autonomous organization. That's what the acronym stands for. And so just to break it down, I would think of it as a new type of a corporation or coordination vehicle. So in our traditional model, we have a corporation where there's a management company, or sorry, a management team, and they sort of oversee the entire organization. With DAOs, what we're saying is that rather than having it be very hierarchical or having this sort of strict structure, it's much more fluid. So anybody can contribute to the success of the organization, and in its sort of manner, it's decentralized. And then it also uses crypto technology to use all of its financial services on the blockchain. So a very, very simple definition would be kind of like a mission-based community with a bank account. That's kind of how I think about it. But it's very distributed and decentralized. And so I started one with a few of my colleagues in the industry called Komorebi. And so what this means is that we have a bunch of folks come together and we invest capital into female and non-binary founders together. And we all vote on what investments we want to do. We all sort of look at deals together. So it's very much this collective process. And rather than having, 2 or 3 people make the decisions, it's really about the whole group. I think there's lots of different flavors of DAOs, and I think that some might work better than others. And it's still very, very early days, but it's a really interesting model to experiment with and has been very rewarding, I would say, just from doing a work perspective.
It is indeed nice to see that you are finding DAOs very useful and as a vehicle. As I mentioned before, we had heard a little bit about the hacking and other things that had happened in the DAOs, but you find it safe and a good way to do things. Is that true, or is there different kinds of DAOs that we need to think about?
Yeah, so they're all, basically working on different blockchains. So there was a DAO that got hacked in 2016, I believe. I think the infrastructure and the technology wasn't as sophisticated then, but every DAO is going to be different. So if one DAO gets hacked, that does not mean that the technology doesn't work. It just means that that particular instance, something may have gone wrong. So, there's still lots of opportunities for security to be, I think improved and advanced, but it's certainly, I would say, very, very much ahead than where it was back in 2016.
Beautiful. Great to hear that. So the other thing that I hear in the space is NFTs. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that? And are you doing anything in that space at all?
Yeah, so NFTs, another acronym, stands for non-fungible tokens.
Yeah.
Really, the way to think about this is, everything in our life is a unique piece, right? You might have a unique car or a unique item in your house. NFTs are unique digital items. And the reason that they're unique is you can prove with code that there's only one of this item that exists on the internet, or you can prove this is one of 5 or whatever it may be. And so NFTs are really a tool. They've been used pretty significantly with the collectibles market and with art. That was really like a lot of the use cases last year that took off. But at the end of the day, NFTs can work for anything online. So this could be a membership card to a club. This could represent, in-game asset. So when you're playing video games and you want to purchase something, you could purchase an NFT and then you own that NFT. What that means is now you can rent it, you can sell it, you can trade it, you can do all these different things that previously have really been in the hands of centralized organizations. So, we're still in very early days of the non-fungible token market, but I think that this is something that's really going to unlock a whole new level of sort of financial utility to what we do on the internet. And I think it's going to be it has some interesting ramifications for how some of our existing companies in the tech space start to evolve. There's been rumors that Facebook and Instagram are launching their own NFTs. I think there's going to be a lot of different applications that we see, both in our traditional tech platforms and then new ones to come.
Fantastic. So in all your investment adventures, what would you consider as your greatest success to date?
Yeah, I think my greatest success to date, I hope is all the women that I've helped along the way and the founders that I work with at Blockchain Capital. I really want to take the time to spend with all the wonderful entrepreneurs who are building in this industry and sort of seeing what the future might look like and creating it. So that's really, to me, at the end of the day, what I wake up for and what I'm really excited about.
That's fantastic. And what does the future hold? 10 years from now, Kinjal, where is she going?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what exactly the future holds, but I will definitely say, I think my goals are very much to continue to support women, to support founders, and to find ways to sort of see blockchain technology be used in a more equitable manner to provide access to financial markets, to provide access to technology. That's really my goal. And I hope to continue to invest in solutions to do that.
Fantastic. What advice do you have for female entrepreneurs that you are trying to support today? Yeah,
I guess I would just say, you have the sort of the skills to be able to do and go after what you want. It's really, really just about taking that leap of faith. One of the biggest things that I think is really helpful when you're starting out is just trying out as many things as quickly as possible and experimenting. Don't be afraid of rejection or a failure, but just iterating and trying out as many things as possible, I think is a really great way to kind of find a product or a solution that really works in the market and help you kind of get your reps in when you're building something.
And where should they go to look for money?
I think well, blockchain capital for sure. Come talk to me. But in general, I would say there's many firms that are investing in the blockchain space now, both traditional venture capitalists as well as blockchain specific funds.
Yeah.
There's also a number of grant programs that are available. And I'm available on Twitter. If anybody's looking for resources, happy to send over resources.
Fantastic, fantastic. That is really useful. I know that there are many young people who really would like to do, especially women. I think women are entrepreneurial by nature, and I think if you could support them, I'm so glad you're working in that space, and I think they can really be benefited by that. I also see that you're an artist. Do you pursue that seriously?
Yeah, no, I mean, mostly for fun. I like to paint a lot and I find it to be quite, stress relieving. And so I paint in my free time and sometimes I paint different objects, but it's really just a hobby of mine. Hopefully one day I can pursue it more seriously. But for now, it's a good stress relief.
Fantastic. Well, what a pleasure to speak to you, Kinjal. I know you're quite busy, and I truly appreciate you taking your time to speak to Lokvani. Thank you so much, Kinjal.
Thank you.